Hi, I'm Sarah Burns, and I want to thank you for taking a little bit of time in listening to my YouTube video here. I've been putting together a series of Reiki myths, and the one I want to talk about today has to do with the Reiki community's claim that there's a 21-day purification process after getting attuned to Reiki. Now, if you don't know what an attunement is, that there are different levels in Reiki, and the levels are put together based on getting attuned, which I could do another video on that. But basically, each of those levels activates your energy to be a healer. And the belief is that with each attunement, your energy levels get stronger. So we'll talk about that another time. But one of the things that the Reiki Masters tend to claim is that after the attunement process, that within 21 days you will go through a purification process, and once that's over, that you're operating from a higher vibration. And some even make bigger claims saying that your life is on track and everything's fine. Well, here's the thing about this and why this is a myth. It's never been studied to know whether or not you actually are completely purified after 21 days. And because most Reiki workshops are done in a weekend, and the person running the weekend workshops is on to another group after that weekend workshop, nobody has really taken the time to really see what exactly that process actually looks like for most people. I have been teaching Reiki in a different format. I teach now for 12 weeks, and I've been doing that professionally since 2006. And in my program, I have a questionnaire that I have my students fill out each week, monitoring what is going on for them personally throughout their week, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, so that I have a better understanding of what's actually going on for them. And so because I've been doing this a long time and I have used these questionnaires to monitor my students' progress, I've been able to see a few things. One of the things that comes up at about week 5 or 6 that I've observed quite a bit with many of my students is that usually there's some kind of an emotional upheaval that happens in their life that either makes them angry without necessarily having some issue per se. Sometimes there is an issue that has boiled to the surface. Other times it's just this general feeling of being angry or depressed, and that usually shows up at about week 5 or 6 for many of my students. And I have had other Reiki people join my class so that they learn more about energy work, who went through, say, the attunement a year or two before showing up in my class, and they have gone back themselves to look at their own time of did things come up for them at week 5 or 6. And sure enough, many of them have recognized that yes, indeed, things started percolating for them. So for me, to say that this Reiki purification process only lasts for 21 days, that has never been studied. So it's a false statement to be claiming this to people. Now, one of my concerns about this as well is that if people don't understand the attunement process in detail, which many people that are doing weekend workshops don't really understand, it can leave people feeling really lost. And people can slip into deeper depressions because you've activated that Kundalini energy during that attunement, and that is putting you on your spiritual path. So if you say you do a weekend workshop and you're feeling really blissful over that weekend, and maybe a few days later or weeks later, but that bliss tends to die back down into your own frequency, and that's where the problems begin. I tell my students, you know, if you're not practicing, if you're not doing the techniques that I'm teaching you to do in the class, you can tell me that you are, but I'm going to know whether or not you're actually doing them based on what's going on in your own life. And so if I get students that really are not working towards clearing their life, their spiritual path, staying on their spiritual path, doing the Reiki energy healing daily and other spiritual work, if they're not doing it, their lives do become utter chaos. I've seen it over and over and over again. So what I do think about this 21-day process that they're talking about, and I don't even see it as 21 days. I think within the first 7 weeks, you can very well end up getting physical symptoms that need to get worked out. And that's usually because there's toxicity in your body on the physical level that needs to get cleared. But to just say that this is a 21-day process is a myth. And it's disinformation that doesn't prepare people on what can be some consequences along the way, that they will not be able to connect the dots with that Reiki attunement, along with feelings of anger and depression that show up 5 or 6 weeks later. This is a spiritual journey. The minute you get attuned to Reiki, you are getting a seed that gets activated, and that seed is going to continue to play out in your life whether you acknowledge working with Reiki or not. So I'm asking people, if you have already been attuned, to take a step back and look at your own life and connect the dots if you've been feeling more emotional issues after that attunement, or life situations that have kind of kicked up. All of those things are a sign that this is your spiritual journey that you need to work on. If you haven't been attuned yet, then I am going to encourage you to really examine within yourself if you're in a place to really want to focus on doing your spiritual work now. On my own website, when people are interested in my class, I ask, do you have other projects going on? Are you going to be doing other workshops? Are you involved in any situations that is going to not allow you to focus on this program? And then I tend to either talk to the person for a while on the phone or in person to make sure that they're a relatively sound mind to be taking this program. And 98% of the time, I do a pretty good job of screening who I think would be a good candidate for being in the Reiki program versus not. I think doing attunements is a serious step in your life, and I know that when somebody makes the promise of giving you power and extra psychic abilities and things like that, you want to jump on board with it. But energy healing and getting activated in working with healing energy does require commitment from you. Thereafter, to really examine your own life and making a commitment to doing spiritual practices to help you along the way. So in this series today, my thing is talking about no, you're not going to be perfectly whole, healthy, and happy in 21 days. And that is one of the biggest Reiki myths that we need to overcome. If you have questions or concerns about your own Reiki practice or your own healing journey, and you need assistance with healing or understanding some things about Reiki, please reach out to me at my website, www.centerforsacredtransformations.org, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or concerns that you have. I'm Sara Burns, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.